Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to share with you that there was a time when life seemed like a series of random events. Things just happened to me. I hoped for better days, prayed for miracles, and waited for life to turn in my favor. But then one thought entered my awareness, quiet, yet profound. What if my inner world is the cause of my outer world? This single idea did not just inspire me, it awakened me. I began to test it, gently at first. I imagined conversations I wished to have. I saw myself receiving good news. I felt deeply the joy of already having what I desired. And something astonishing happened. The outer world began to mirror these inner experiences. Not instantly, but certainly, precisely. Repeat. It was no longer a mystery. The world was not happening to me, it was happening through me. And the key? Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not merely thinking about what I want, but living in the state of having already received it. That was the moment my life changed. Now, I share this with you, not as theory but as experience. If you dare to believe that your imagination is creative and your assumptions shape your reality, then everything can change. This one thought, I create my reality from within, is not just philosophy, it is power, it is truth, and it can transform your life as it did mine. You are not a victim of circumstance, you are the author of your world. There comes a moment in every person's journey when they realize that change does not begin out there, it begins within. We grow up thinking the world shapes us, our family, our schooling, our environment, our circumstances, and to a degree that appears to be true. But underneath all of that is a quiet truth waiting to be discovered. That our perception, our beliefs, and our internal focus shape our external reality far more powerfully than any event or person ever could. The inner shift I speak of is subtle but monumental. It's the moment when you stop saying, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this reflecting within me?" This question alone is a pivot point, a shift in identity from passive observer to conscious creator. You see, your inner world is not just a lens through which you see reality, it is the blueprint from which reality is constructed. Your thoughts, your self-concept, and especially your emotional state are not locked inside your body like secrets in a vault. They are radiated into the fabric of the universe, and that universe echoes back to you in people, events, circumstances, and experiences. This is not superstition or wishful thinking. When you change your internal assumptions about yourself, the world around you begins to rearrange itself accordingly. Assume yourself to be confident, and situations will arise that require and reward that confidence. Assume you are always overlooked, and you will find yourself skipped over again and again. Life is responding to your internal identity. The inner shift is not necessarily loud or dramatic, it can be as soft as a whisper. One day you simply stop entertaining the belief that you are unlucky, unloved, or unworthy, and in that moment the world begins to respond differently to you. Your posture changes, your language shifts, your presence becomes magnetic. Why? Because your self-image has changed and your outer world is only ever reflecting that image. But the power of this shift is not just in how it affects your outer world, it also frees you. It frees you from the illusion that you are helpless. It dissolves the belief that your happiness depends on someone else changing. It places the reins of life back in your hands. Not because you can control every circumstance, but because you can command your own state of being. And your state determines how the story unfolds. It's easy to underestimate this truth because it is so simple. But the most transformative truths often are. If you fully accepted that one shift in thought could ripple out and reorganize your entire life, what would you begin to change in yourself right now? Would you dare to let go of the version of yourself that has suffered, struggled, or been ignored? Would you risk believing that something more is possible, not out there, but within you? Because here is the secret. It is not your past that defines you. It is not even your present. It is the assumption you hold in this moment about who you are and what you are capable of becoming. That assumption, once chosen and felt, is what creates the turning point. And so, the invitation is simple but profound. Shift your inner stance, and the life that once felt heavy begins to move with surprising ease. That one inner shift does not require permission, proof, or perfection. It only requires your willingness to believe that you are the cause, not the effect. From that single shift, everything begins to change. Most people use their imagination the way a child might play with a toy, casually, briefly, without realizing its true power. They imagine things going wrong, rehearse arguments in their heads, relive moments of fear or regret, and call it daydreaming or overthinking. But what they don't realize is that imagination is not some harmless mental playground. It is the workshop of creation. It is the power that sets the blueprint for what is to come. To say that your imagination is not idle is to declare that every mental picture, every felt inner experience is a seed, and those seeds, whether planted deliberately or carelessly, must grow. The mind does not distinguish between what is real and what is vividly imagined. The emotional charge you bring to a thought is the energy that determines whether that thought takes root. Imagine for a moment that your imagination is a sacred canvas. Every image you hold with feeling is a brushstroke painting the story of your life. Most people paint unconsciously, dwelling on fears, reliving disappointments, worrying about what might go wrong. They wonder why life continues to mirror those same themes, not realizing it is their imagination doing exactly what it was designed to do, create in the likeness of what is impressed upon it. What changes everything is the moment you take ownership of this power. When you begin to use your imagination deliberately, consciously, and lovingly, the world shifts in response. You are no longer a passive thinker. You become a conscious artist. You begin to feel your way into the life you desire, seeing it, sensing it, living it in the inner world long before it appears in the outer world. This is not about escaping reality, it's about forming it. The outer world is not the source, it is the expression of what you have been imagining consistently. Think about this. A person who constantly imagines themselves as broke, lonely, or unlucky is often not surprised when those conditions persist. Why? Because they rehearsed those feelings so often that they became states of being. But the reverse is also true. The one who imagines abundance, who lives inwardly in a state of being loved, successful, and free, without needing physical proof, will draw those experiences to them, often in ways that seem mysterious or miraculous. It's important to understand you are not just imagining for entertainment, you are creating states, and those states create your reality. Your imagination is the womb from which your life is born, moment by moment. Every scene you replay with emotion, every what if you feel deeply, these are instructions whispered to the universe. And the universe always listens. So begin today to imagine wisely. Don't wait for circumstances to improve to feel better. Feel better to improve your circumstances. Imagine the life you want, not as a distant wish, but as a present experience. Feel it as real. Dwell in it. Let it thrill you. Let it soothe you. Let it replace doubt with knowing. You hold in your imagination the same power that shapes stars, moves oceans, and spins galaxies. That power is not abstract, it is in you now, waiting not to be discovered, but to be claimed. The world may have taught you to suppress imagination, calling it unrealistic or naive, but the world was built by those who dared to imagine differently. Use yours not to escape life, but to build it. Because your imagination is not idle, it is endlessly, unceasingly creative. And now you can choose what it creates. Determination is not just a passing thought, it is a belief clothed in certainty, a mental posture that says, this is the way it is. And what few people realize is that life conforms itself to these assumptions, whether conscious or unconscious. Every assumption becomes a lens that shapes perception, colors interpretation, and ultimately determines what we allow ourselves to experience. Most of us hold countless assumptions without even questioning them. We assume certain things about money, relationships, health, our own abilities, and the world itself. These assumptions act like hidden scripts, dictating how we respond to events and even what kinds of events show up in our lives. You can think of them like filters. They don't change what is, but they control what you see and how you respond, and thus they shape what continues. For example, if someone assumes people can't be trusted, they will begin to unconsciously interpret actions and words through that filter. Even when kindness is shown, suspicion may arise. Over time, their world fills with examples of betrayal, dishonesty, and broken trust, not necessarily because these things are more common, but because that is what their assumption prepares them to see and expect. That expectation, deeply felt and persistently held, becomes experience. Now consider the reverse. A person who assumes life is always helping me will meet the same events with an entirely different energy. Even a challenge will be interpreted as a hidden blessing, a detour towards something better. This assumption opens doors that the former mindset would never even recognize as doors. It becomes a magnet for positive meaning, resilience, and unexpected support. The shift happens when you realize that you can choose your assumptions. You can revise them, you can drop those that limit you, and replace them with ones that liberate. This is not about lying to yourself. It is about selecting a more empowering story and living from it until it solidifies into fact. Your current assumptions were not handed down from heaven. They were shaped by repetition, environment, influence, and past experience. But past experience is only the echo of former assumptions. To change your life, you must reverse the order. Adopt a new assumption first, and then let the experience follow. Suppose you desire love, but your deep assumption is, I'm not lovable. That assumption will quietly sabotage every effort. You'll dismiss compliments, attract unavailable partners, or pull away when someone gets too close. But if you take the time to shift that assumption, by persistently dwelling in the feeling of being loved, valued, and chosen, your actions will align, and your world will begin to reflect that inner conviction. This is the secret power of assumption. It is creative, not just in theory, but in law. What you assume with feeling and persist in becomes reality, not because of magic, but because of alignment. Your actions, reactions, and expectations synchronize with the assumption, and the world shapes itself accordingly. Most people wait for proof before they change a belief. But those who shape their reality understand that assumption precedes evidence. You don't believe something because it's true, you experience it as true because you believe it. Change the cause and the effect must follow. So what are you assuming about yourself today, about life, about what is possible? Look closely, not with judgment, but with curiosity. And then ask, what would happen if I chose a new assumption right now and lived as if it were already true? Because once you accept that your assumptions define your experience, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become their author. And with that, the story can change. At any moment, you choose to write a new chapter. There is a subtle but powerful distinction between wanting something and feeling it as already yours. Most people dwell in desire. They say, I want a better job. I want love. I want to be healthy. But they feel the absence of those things more than the presence. And so they continue to experience lack. Desire, when felt as lack, keeps the object of your desire at a distance. But everything changes when you move from wanting to being, when you feel the wish fulfilled, not as a daydream, not as wishful thinking, but as an inner reality so vivid it moves you, you shift states. You are no longer someone who lacks the thing, you become someone who has it, inwardly. And because life reflects your inner state, that change must express itself outwardly. This is the creative secret most overlooked. Your feelings are not reactions to life, they are instructions to it. When you feel something is real, you impress it upon the deeper layers of your consciousness, and those impressions determine the events, people, and outcomes that show up in your world. What you feel with conviction, you create. This isn't about pretending or trying to fool yourself. It's about entering the state of fulfillment as naturally as you would remember a happy memory. You don't need to convince yourself it happened, you simply feel it. That's the same principle you use here. Imagine the scene that would imply your desire is fulfilled, then relax into the feeling of its reality. Suppose your desire is to be in a loving relationship. Instead of focusing on the absence of a partner, you would close your eyes, quiet the mind, and imagine a simple scene, holding their hand, hearing them say, I love you, or laughing over dinner. You don't need to see every detail, just enough to feel it real. The more vivid and emotionally alive the experience is within you, the more potent its effect. You are not begging the world to change. You are not waiting for permission. You are assuming the end, entering the mood of the wish fulfilled, and letting life catch up. This principle applies to every area of life. If you want abundance, feel the joy of financial ease now. If you want healing, feel the relief of wholeness. If you want success, feel the pride of your achievement. Live from the end, not toward it. This is not about suppressing the facts of your current reality. It is about choosing which reality you give your dominant attention and emotion to. The outer world may still look the same for a while, but internally you have already shifted timelines. You are occupying a new state of being, and that state is the seed of your new reality. It takes faith, yes, not faith in a deity far away, but faith in the creative power within you. Faith that your inner world is not separate from the outer one, that the two are intricately connected. When you feel the reality of your desire with consistency and clarity, it begins to manifest in ways you could never have planned with logic alone. So pause, go within, see it, feel it, rest in the knowing that your inner experience is the true cause and the outer world is simply its echo. You don't have to force, you don't have to chase, you simply have to feel it real and persist in that feeling until the world has no choice but to reflect it back. It's easy to think of the world as something outside of you, a collection of circumstances, people, and events that happen independently of your inner life. But this belief is the very thing that keeps us feeling powerless, stuck, or victimized by fate. The deeper truth is that the outer world is a mirror reflecting your inner state. What you hold inside is what you see outside. Consider this. Have you ever noticed how, when you're in a joyful, confident mood, your surroundings seem friendlier? Strangers smile more often, opportunities appear to flow naturally. On the other hand, when you're anxious, doubtful, or downhearted, the world feels harsh, unfair, or uncooperative. This isn't coincidence, it's cause and effect. So your inner state is composed of your thoughts, beliefs, and especially your emotions, the invisible energy that radiates from you continuously. This energy interacts with the environment, subtly influencing how situations unfold and how others respond to you. People are intuitive beings. They pick up on your energy and react accordingly, often without conscious awareness. Similarly, your attention and focus cause you to notice certain things while ignoring others, shaping your personal experience of reality. This reflection is not judgment or punishment. It's simply the natural law of correspondence. What you harbor inside will eventually manifest outside in some form. If your mind is cluttered with fear and limitation, the world reflects that confusion. If your heart is open, trusting, and grateful, the world responds in kind. One powerful way to test this truth is to become aware of your habitual inner states. Ask yourself, what emotions do I most often dwell in? What stories do I tell myself about who I am and what my life is like? How do these stories shape my daily experiences? This self-awareness is the first step toward transformation. When you consciously choose to change your inner state, to cultivate feelings of peace, success, love, and abundance, you are planting the seeds for a different outer experience. This is not a quick fix or magic wand. It requires commitment and persistence. But over time, your reality begins to align with your new internal blueprint. Remember, this doesn't mean ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It means not allowing outer difficulties to dictate your inner world. By maintaining an inner state of calm, assurance, and faith in your creative power, you set a new tone that the outer world cannot help but reflect. Your outer reality is not a fixed script. It is a living, breathing extension of your consciousness. When you change within, your life changes without. When most people think of faith, they imagine a hopeful waiting, sometimes described as blind faith, believing without evidence and hoping for the best. But true faith, the kind that moves mountains, is far more active and powerful than mere hope. It is the persistent, unwavering assumption of the reality you desire, regardless of present circumstances. Faith is the steady conviction that what you desire is already yours, even when your senses suggest otherwise. It is not a passive stance, but a dynamic force that shapes your thoughts, feelings, and actions in alignment with your desired outcome. This persistence in assumption is what creates the invisible but undeniable bridge between your inner world and your outer reality. Imagine a seed planted deep in the soil. Though you cannot see the sprout above the ground, the seed holds within it the potential to become a towering tree. Your faith is the sunlight and water that nourish that seed. Quiet, unseen but essential. Without faith, the seed remains dormant. With it, growth begins. This persistence means that when doubt tries to creep in, you gently return your focus to the feeling of fulfillment. When external evidence contradicts your desires, you don't abandon your assumption. Instead, you reaffirm it through imagination and feeling. You do not demand instant proof. You trust in the unseen process unfolding beneath the surface. Faith also liberates you from the tyranny of proof and certainty that often keeps people stuck. Waiting for perfect conditions or visible signs can trap you in endless cycles of hesitation. True faith is the courage to live as though your desire is already true and to act accordingly, even if the path isn't fully clear. This kind of faith aligns your subconscious mind with your conscious goals. It removes internal resistance and creates harmony, allowing inspired ideas, opportunities, and people to flow toward you naturally. It is the energetic frequency that magnetizes your dreams into reality. Many give up too soon because they confuse faith with wishful thinking. They hope for a positive outcome but retreat at the first sign of difficulty. But the power lies in persistence, continuing to assume the fulfilled state no matter what, until that state becomes your new reality. Remember, faith is not an abstract concept or a religious idea reserved for the few. It is the practical tool available to anyone willing to take responsibility for their inner world. It is the bridge from desire to manifestation, from thought to form. By cultivating faith as persistence in assumption, you invite the universe to cooperate with you. You stop resisting reality and instead work with its natural laws. In doing so, you awaken a creative force within that is unstoppable and unshakable. Many people live as if life happens to them, events, challenges, and circumstances unfolding beyond their control. This mindset breeds feelings of helplessness and frustration, as though we are merely victims of fate or random chance. But the deeper truth is that you are not just a passive receiver of life's happenings. You are an active generator of your experience. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every assumption you hold sets in motion creative forces. These internal states shape the energy you emit into the world and create ripples that attract matching experiences. Your reality is not something outside yourself to be endured or reacted to. It is a reflection of the life you are generating moment by moment. This is an empowering but challenging idea because it requires you to take full responsibility for your inner world. It's tempting to blame external factors, other people, the economy, luck, but those are surface effects. The true cause lies within your consciousness. When you accept that you generate your life, you shift from being a reactor to being a creator. Instead of responding to circumstances with fear, resistance, or resignation, you begin to consciously direct your inner state. This conscious generation changes the way you interact with the world and how the world responds. Consider your feelings and thoughts as seeds. What you plant with your imagination and belief will grow in your life. If you habitually generate worry, doubt, or anger, you will harvest corresponding difficulties. If you cultivate peace, joy, and confidence, you will see evidence of those qualities emerging around you. Generating life rather than reacting to it means you are designing your story, not being written into someone else's script. It means you can change the plot by changing your internal dialogue, your focus, and your feelings. This does not mean ignoring real problems or pretending everything is perfect. It means recognizing that your inner state is the creative source of how those problems manifest and how you move through them. When you generate calm and faith, your actions become more effective and solutions appear more readily. In essence, the world outside is a stage upon which you perform, but the script is written by the dialogue within. By choosing to generate a new inner narrative rooted in hope, love, and empowerment, you transform the entire production. You hold the pen that writes your story. Every moment you generate life Consciously, you align yourself with the truth of your creative power. You become the artist, the architect, and the author of your experience. One of the most profound truths about life is that the outer world is a reflection, a mirror of your inner state. While it may seem that circumstances change independently or that the external environment holds the key to happiness and success, the reality is that the inner world is the true source of all transformation. This means that lasting change cannot come from trying to force external circumstances to shift first. Many people spend years attempting to rearrange the outside, changing jobs, moving cities, seeking different relationships, only to find the same patterns and feelings following them. This is because without the internal shift, external change is often superficial and temporary. To create deep, lasting transformation, you must begin within. When you change your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, you effectively rewrite the blueprint your subconscious mind uses to construct your reality. The subconscious mind, which controls the vast majority of your perceptions and actions, accepts your dominant inner state as reality and manifests corresponding circumstances outside. This is why change often feels like a process of awakening rather than acquisition. You awaken to who you truly are, not the version limited by old fears and doubts. And the outer world begins to adjust in response. The walls that once seemed immovable start to dissolve because they were never truly solid. They were projections of your own mind. Changing your inner world involves replacing limiting beliefs with empowering ones, nurturing feelings of worthiness and abundance, and consistently imagining and feeling the reality you desire. It is about assuming the feeling of the wish, fulfilled, and persistently dwelling in that state, regardless of what the external world currently displays. This inner transformation can sometimes feel invisible or slow at first, but trust that the seed you plant in your consciousness is growing beneath the surface. Over time, this growth manifests as shifts in your circumstances, relationships, health, and opportunities. When you accept that the outer world must follow the inner, you step into a new kind of power. You are no longer at the mercy of fleeting events or other people's actions. Instead, you become a deliberate creator, able to influence your life from the source, the inner reality that births all experience. This perspective changes everything. It turns challenges into opportunities for inner growth. It makes patience a virtue because you know the change you desire is already taking root inside, and it frees you from anxiety because you understand that true power lies in managing your inner state, not controlling external events. Ultimately, by changing your inner world, you create a ripple effect that moves through every area of your life. Your outer reality must follow because it has no choice but to reflect what you hold inside. In the end, the one thought that changed everything is simple yet profound. Your inner world is the true source of your outer reality. The power to create, to transform, and to live the life you desire has always been within you, waiting quietly to be claimed. By mastering your imagination, embracing the power of assumption, and feeling the reality of your desires as already fulfilled, you awaken the creative force that shapes your experience. Remember, life is not something that happens to you, it is something you generate. Faith is not idle hoping, it is persistent knowing. Your outer world is a mirror, reflecting the states you hold within. Change begins inside, with the choice to live from the end, to persist in the feeling of fulfillment, and to trust that the universe responds to the consciousness you cultivate. This truth is both liberating and empowering. No longer must you wait for external circumstances to change before you feel worthy, happy, or successful. Instead, you can start now by changing your inner world and watch as everything around you inevitably follows. So take this thought with you. The life you want is already within you. Dare to imagine it, feel it, assume it, and live it. When you do, you will discover that one thought truly can change your life, and it can change yours too.